Hey, welcome back to On the Level Leadership. And I came across an article that I found really interesting, and it's about the 18 destructive habits holding you back from success by a gentleman named Deep Patel from Entrepreneur Magazine. And I really wanted to bring these 18 points to you because I found them very useful from a self-reflection perspective and wanted to share with you. So the premise of this particular article was that there are 18 things that people do that can hold them back from their potential or keep them from being either the best leader or the best coach or the best business person or the most successful person in their surroundings. And I think that every single human being at some point has been guilty of keeping one of these destructive habits as part of our everyday activities or everyday behaviors. One is seeking approval. Seeking approval. What does that mean? Well, if you take a minute and think about it from your perspective, who are you wanting to impress or not disappoint, more importantly? So when you're focusing on what others think of you, what Deep Patel talks about in the article is that when you're doing that, you're actually not focusing on your own desires and what it is that you want. If you're looking for approval from others rather than driving at your own success from the perspective of what you want, then you're going to hold yourself back because you may be afraid of disappointing somebody. His thinking is that you have to eventually learn to stand on your own 2 feet. I can say that as a very independent individual, I tend to be a bit stubborn and hard-headed when it comes to certain things. But one thing that I have been guilty of is really seeking approval to the point of being a people pleaser and not really making my own decisions, but rather falling into things because of what other people think I should be doing. So are you seeking approval from others? If so, that might be holding you back. Shifting the blame is another piece. So shifting the blame, it's tempting to really shift the blame on other people as a way or as a rationale as to why you're not succeeding. It's somebody else's fault that you didn't make the grade, you didn't get the promotion because somebody undermined you. With shifting the blame, you're basically trying to shift responsibility from your own actions onto somebody else's. The reality is if you're going to be successful, you need to assume accountability for your actions. Jack Canfield talks about this all the time. He talks about the number one thing you can do in the Success Principles. If you read that book, and I have the link down below for that book if that's of interest to you, he basically talks about this. You need to be able to take accountability and responsibility for your own actions, for your own life, and for your own failures. The third is undefined goals. This is a big one. And as a coach, this is one that clients can sometimes struggle with because we have these lofty goals and then we go to break them down, but then we have a hard time actually following through on the action steps required to get to the goals. A lot of times though, people don't even have a sniff of what it is they want, or they don't have a sense of what the goals are. Really the idea here is to use the SMART acronym, right? And you'll see here SMART down below. This is what it defines as. If you do that, then you're making your objectives very measurable and very defined. And I think that's really at the root of goal development. You really have to have a sense of what the goal is, how big is it, when do you want it, et cetera, et cetera. But behind all of that, I would even say even further is not only do you need to know where you want to go, you want to know how that's going to feel and how you're going to sense, like how proud you're going to feel once you've achieved that goal. So it's not just about identifying the goals, it's about identifying the feeling behind the goals. The fourth item he talks about is neglecting your health. This is a big one, and it's one that I personally have struggled with when we're a parent, when we're working as an executive, for example. We tend to not really consider our health in the equation because we say we don't have time to take care of ourselves. We don't have time to eat properly. We don't have time. I've actually made it easier on myself where I fast until lunch, so I don't have to worry about making breakfast in the morning, and I don't have to rush out the door right now because we're still working from home in our current environment. But you wouldn't normally have to rush out the door if you're fasting, for example. But neglecting your health, going for walks, taking mental health breaks, meditating, yoga, whatever it is super important to keeping yourself balanced. I was watching an interesting YouTube video the other day where the speaker referred to an article where basically it said that the bulk of millionaires actually exercise up to 3 times per week. So if you want to be a successful millionaire, you need to incorporate exercise, not because the exercise is, just about your health. It's about the act of discipline, right? It's about disciplining yourself to do something on a regular basis and making it a part of your world, regardless of whether you feel like doing it or not. So it's that structure and that discipline that, ensures that person is successful. So neglecting your health can have multiple impacts. It can make you less willing to work, more tired, have less energy, but it can also it can take you out of the picture because now you can't work, you can't function because your brain has shut down or your body has shut down. Something I still struggle with, quite frankly. I mean, I'm down 20 pounds. I have another 40 or so to go, but it's something I struggle with, is that establishment of a routine that you really build into your life. Self-doubt. This is the primordial killer of dreams, right? Is when we doubt our capacity to be successful or our capacity to do what it takes. Fear of rejection, fear of letting people down, that whole imposter syndrome thing comes into play. Man, it can really be a dream buster. Really, it's about not getting caught in that negative feedback loop or the confirmation bias that life sucks. You need to try to get yourself out of that perspective. There's a number of ways that you can do it. You can take a course or follow a program that a coach offers, like the one I'm going to offer later in the fall on how to overcome your imposter. There's also the notion of visualizing your success. You can hire a coach or just call a friend, that you trust and who is your number one cheerleader. I happen to be lucky to be married to my best friend, and he is my biggest cheerleader. And anytime I have self-doubt, all I got to do is bring it to him, and he'll say, you know what, Tammy, you got this. You can do this. You are super successful. Then it's about learning to say I am. So the I am statement is huge, because I am is telling the universe that you are whatever it is you follow that with. I am successful. I am capable. I am smart enough. I am worthy, right? It's not just about saying it in the mirror. You need to learn to feel it. And that's a visualization exercise that coaches and other folks, even online, go to YouTube, tack in visualization for success. And there are a number of gurus out there who are willing to help you do this. In action. Oh gosh, the art of procrastination. I am a master at that. I think a lot of people are. When you are tired, or you're not sure what direction to take, or maybe you're feeling that self-doubt, or maybe you're overwhelmed by the level of activities that you have to do, what happens? We procrastinate. I did it when I was finishing my bathroom, where I was like, man, I don't know how to do this floor, and I procrastinated. I watched YouTube all morning. I talked to my husband, and then I was like, you know what? I got to do this. I got to cut the damn tile and get this going. So sometimes the hardest thing we got to do is get over our own procrastination and get over ourselves. But if you're a leader, you know that you have to spring into action if you want to overcome that sense of inaction. It's called inertia, right? We need to start moving forward to get beyond that inertia. So if you could just pick something and just keep moving forward, then that'll help you kind of overcome that inaction over time. Feeding distraction is kind of another, I would say, the extension point to that inaction piece, where feeding distraction is all about procrastination. So, flipping through the reels of Instagram reels and not really doing what it is you need to do. It's about distracting. It could be about online shopping. It could be getting a drink. It could be whatever, watching television. You need to sort of find ways to not get sidelined by these other activities. You need to find ways to sort of remain focused. And that's what this author is sort of talking about, is we need to stop feeding that distractive piece. So the 8th item is putting yourself or others down. So this is about the inner critic sort of taking over and telling you how much of a loser you are, or how incapable you are of this, or how ill-prepared you are. It's really your ego who wants to stay in your current space and not let you grow into the person you're trying to be. So really, it's about learning how to hear your inner critic for what it is, recognizing it for what it is, and then countering it with the actual facts, like what is your core truth. So really, putting yourself down is not helpful and can be very destructive to your own success. Staying in your comfort zone. Oh, this is huge. We're wired to stay safe. We're wired to stay cozy, comfy, outside of danger, make sure that things can't kill us, attack us, bother us, hurt us. This staying in the comfort zone thing, if you want to grow, if you want to be successful, you have to honor the fact that you're going to be uncomfortable. If you don't think it's uncomfortable leaving my steady government 9 to 5 in order to proceed to entrepreneurship and to really follow the dream of coaching and helping other people and being my own success on my own terms, that is hugely discomforting for me. In fact, it's caused great anxiety at 4 o'clock in the morning where I wake up going, what in the hell am I doing? This is normal. It's expected. You have to expect that you're going to be uncomfortable. Finishing my bathroom, I'd never finished tile before. I'd never done that. It was a discomfort for me. But you know what? I got it done. I read up on it. I learned. I watched YouTube videos. I asked questions. I learned. And so guess what? I went outside my comfort zone. And you know what? I now have a bathroom that's functional with a toilet in it and tile. And it's fantastic. And eventually I have my successful company and business as well on top of that. So if you want to grow and succeed, you're going to have to learn to get uncomfortable with the lack of comfort. I know it sounds weird, but it's the truth. The need to always be perfect. Oh boy. So the disease of perfectionism. Perfectionism is also the enemy of good enough, right? I've done posts on this before on LinkedIn where I had colleagues at Royal Roads University where I did my grad degree, one in particular who would always say to me, Tammy, you need to learn to embrace the good enough, as I do. If you always wait for things to be perfect, you will never act on what you need to do. Like I'm in the process of developing a course right now on how to master your imposter. And I'm in the process of developing it. It's not complete yet. It's going to be a dripped content later in the fall. It's going to come out. Is it going to be a perfect thing? No, it's not going to be perfect, but that's okay. It's okay. I'm going to put it out there. I'm going to get feedback. I'm going to modify, approve, improve. And if it fails, guess what? I'm just going to do something else because you know what? There is no need to be perfect because if you wait for perfection, there's never a right time to make changes. There's never a right time to do the different thing. There's never a right time to change jobs. There's never a good time for change. It's just a fact. So you don't wait for the perfect situation. You need to act, period. And that fed into waiting for the right time, which to me feeds into the first one. And I think we've already kind of covered that. Waiting for the right time for anything is just, you're never going to get anywhere if you wait for the right time. Not having a budget. Okay, so who here watching this video is concerned about their money? You know what? I can't take a different job because it's going to pay a little less, even so I'm going to feel like I'm more fulfilled with this work because I can't afford that. Or I can't start a business. I don't have money of my own to start a business. How will I start a business if I have no money? I think that it can get real upsetting when you start looking at your finances and you start thinking, oh gosh, I don't know that I can afford to do this. But I really do think that if you set a budget, like when I sat down and actually ran the numbers and realized that how little I really needed to survive on while I was building my business, it became quite clear to me. I was like, man, I could almost work at Starbucks and make that money on a part-time basis and still be able to pay the bills alongside my husband and make sure that nobody's starved in the house. So really, at the end of the day, can I afford to do this? Sure, it's going to be a little tight for a while, but that's okay. That's part of what building a business is all about, is being smart with your money. And so I'm thinking, oh, you know what? I'm going to find a way to make this work. I'm going to find a way to make this happen. And I think you just need to, stick with some good money habits, put yourself on a debt diet rather, and not spend money on things like, Disney products or, whatever it is that your craving is that you enjoy. Try to cut back on the things that you don't need to spend money on and really focus on putting that money towards the business. And as the business starts to make money, reinvest in your business, because at the end of the day, not having a budget is just a piss poor excuse to not move forward on a good idea. The importance of persistence, also not knowing when to let go. So these two are kind of, I wouldn't say they're mutually exclusive, but you definitely have to understand the two. So overlooking the importance of persistence, understand that it's not a one and done thing. When you're creating a business or when you're trying to succeed towards a certain goal, like if you're trying to lose 60 pounds, it's not eating one good meal that's going to have you losing the 60 pounds. It's going to be a consistent effort over time and developing better habits that's going to have you lose the 60 pounds. If you want to change your career, it's not going to happen overnight, and it's certainly not going to happen with one application. You're going to have to maybe take some courses. You're going to have to apply to several jobs. You may have to interview dozens of times before you get a job. Being persistent, consistent and persistent is the measure of all success. It's the same. I see YouTubers complaining online about how YouTube doesn't work and they can't get their algorithm up. You know what? I don't have that many followers on this channel at this point in the game, and this is like 2021. I don't care, because to me, persistence is the game. I'm just going to keep on, keep putting content out there, and who follows me, and who doesn't. I don't care. At the end of the day, it's about persistence and putting it out there and getting yourself continually making steps towards the goal that you're trying to achieve, and eventually you'll get there. But not knowing when to let go is also really important. So you may be moving towards something and you're being persistent, but the triggers or your environment or the universe is telling you, hey, you know what? This might not be such a great idea. This isn't working for you. Your metrics is showing you that maybe this was a bad idea and that maybe this is something that's failing. Try to learn from that failure. Try to learn and pivot. Be willing to pivot. I think that is a huge key to success, is you need to know when to let go of something that's not working and how to pivot or where to pivot or when to pivot so that you can actually turn that failure into a success. So it's super important that not only do you be persistent in the work that you're doing, but that you know when you need to let go of an idea and maybe pivot that idea to something that's more successful. There's two that, again, he mentions here, not educating yourself or asking questions. To me, these are really connected. Leaders are learners. I have said that multiple times on this channel. If you are a leader, you are a learner. You are constantly looking to learn about the next thing, whether it's the next market trend for your business, whether it's what kind of skills do I need to develop, whether it's, what is it that my client really wants? You need to ask questions of your clients. Does this course work for you? What part of this course is not working for you? What would you like to see more of, less than? When something fails, don't go, I'm a complete failure because this thing failed. No, you're not the failure. You need to look at the product you've developed or the service you're providing and see where and how it failed by asking questions, and then learn and educate yourself based on that. And once you've learned information, you're like, man, I really need to improve XYZ. And if you don't have the skills and you're not capable of doing it, then hire somebody who can do that for you so that you can actually learn from the experience. And it doesn't become a lesson observed, but rather a lesson learned. And you apply, and then you'll be more successful next time around because you've made some adjustments based on the feedback that you've received. Not apologizing for mistakes. Now, this is not a personal thing for you personally. It's more of a trust thing. If you don't apologize for things you've done wrong, whether it's with business partners, whether it's with your staff as a leader in an organization, not taking ownership of your behaviors is a huge signal that you're not doing a great job leading what it is you're leading. If you let your ego get in the way and you don't admit where and when you've somehow made a big mistake, that can really undermine any trust that your organization has in you and or your clients or your stakeholders or your partners or your shareholders. You need to really own up to any mistakes that you've made. And mistakes don't need to be the end of your career or the end of your entrepreneurship experience. It could be, guys, I made this mistake. I learned from it. Here's what I learned, and here's how I'm going to apply things differently going forward. And then do that. Then you'll continue to maintain trust or maybe rebuild the trust that maybe was lost in that activity that you participated in, that error that you were a part of. But honestly, that is my modus operandi. That's what on the level leadership is all about. On the level, being straight up, straightforward, honest, direct. That's what it's all about for me. So if I'm not honest in how I respond to things, then first of all, you're going to see it right away. And secondly, it's going to completely dissolve any trust that you have in me. So I am not about closure and hiding mistakes and sweeping things under the rug. I'm all about being open and honest and transparent. That's what I'm all about. So to me, I really, really get upset when people don't own their mistakes. And finally, it's being consumed by failure. So this is huge for me as well, because being consumed by failure is something that people who have very low risk tolerance tend to really focus on the potential failures or the potential losses. But entrepreneurs, and I would say specifically very successful entrepreneurs, not only fail, they fail big and they fail fast often. But even if they don't fail fast, they take their failures, they learn from them, and then they reapply the learning to a new venture or a new company or a new product or a new service. And they keep tweaking those failures into successes. If you look at millionaires or famous people out there, most of them failed in some way, big or small, over the course of their careers, some in much more massive fashion than others. But the reality is, Walt Disney, one of my favorite leaders of all time, who led the development of a company that is a multi-billion-dollar industry. Walt was a failure. He declared bankruptcy back in the 20s, I believe, before the Alice shorts were created. He was able to get himself back from that. He lost staff to a competitor and still managed to pull himself out of that. Walt was the definition of resilience. And I think that's the thing, is that when we're consumed by failure, we're afraid to take risks, then we're afraid to take chances, and we'll be afraid to stretch our boundaries, and we'll be afraid to move to the next level, and we will not take action, and we will procrastinate and do all those things. So being consumed by failure will allow your imposter to really just take over and completely, derail your activities towards success. So I really enjoyed this article actually from entrepreneur.com, and I'm going to link the article down below because I found it really useful, and I would challenge you to read it from the perspective of self-reflection. You know, go through each single one of those and ask yourself, do I do this? Is this what's keeping me from getting to the next step? I have this really great idea that I haven't taken action on. Why? And then read through these 18 things, because then you can sort of say, okay, well, my problem is I'm not taking enough action, or I'm too distracted, or I'm procrastinating, and find a way to build an action plan around those blocks that you have. If you need assistance to get yourself there, if you feel like you need a hand to kind of push you through some of these, let's say you go through these 18 activity items and you go, man, I think I got them all, and you want some help to get you to that next step, I have a link down below where we can start a coaching conversation. Remember that I will have Master the Imposter or Master Your Imposter program starting in the fall. Keep an eye out for that. I will be putting some more information on this channel as well as my Instagram account and Facebook. And I really do hope that if you do have any of these items, that you're able to find a very successful strategy or plan to kind of keep yourself moving forward, because you know what? Life is too damn short to be wasted on fear and a lack of confidence. You really just need to move, because someday you're going to look back on your life and you will have regret. And my goal is to live with no regrets. So anyway, thanks for watching On the Level Leadership. I've got all the links down below if you're interested in any of what I talked about. I'll see you next week.